We'll call this meeting to order for the City of Saratoga Springs, Tuesday, August 16th, 2022 at 6:01 p.m. First on our agenda tonight is a work session for the general plan draft review, city initiated and citywide. Yep. Sorry. Oh, yes, let's do that. I thought you wanted to do that during the policy session.
We just want to be able to let him go home, so.
Oh. No, we own you now.
So, Austin.
We're going to wait until after the general.
Yeah, so, this is Austin Roy, and he's a new senior planner, just started with us a couple weeks ago. He was previously working with Alpine City and made it through our interview process, did a great job through the interview process, and we'll let him introduce himself.
Okay.
Hi, yes, I'm Austin, so nice to meet all of you, introduce myself. So I've been in Alpine for the last 5 years doing planning and zoning over there. I did my undergrad at BYU, and then I have a master's from SUU, so I'm excited to be here. Seems like we have a great team of individuals, so happy to be here.
Okay.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Okay.
You can stay the whole meeting, though. I don't know.
Who's got the?
Have the general plan update.
Okay.
Oh, can I have the,
Yes, I will get that for you.
You're welcome to stand up, sit down several times
no,
during your presentation.
no, thank you.
No.
Just as a quick reminder, we've been through this before with the council, so let's hit on the things that are changes or significant discussion points, not every item.
Point taken.
Thank you.
So I'm pleased to be back tonight. The general plan update was before the Planning Commission last Thursday. It received a positive recommendation and forwarded to you for consideration. Just as a quick overview, the general plan process was 3 phases: what you have, what you need and want, and the pathway to help you get there. The general plan is used to guide development and land use decisions looking into the future. We did have significant community engagement as part of the overall process. This is a list of the events and outreach methods that we used. I put the picture of some of the drawings on the slide just because part of our outreach included outreach to children, school-age children and younger. These are some pictures that some kids drew to illustrate their hope for their future community, and I thought they were cute, so I thought I'd share them. Just as a reminder, the plan was developed in close coordination with the community. We had a steering committee that was made up of local residents, business owners, and representatives from organizations throughout the city, including the principal of the high school and other representatives, such as similar representatives. We have had several meetings with city administration and city departments, and the plan incorporates existing plans that you've already seen and adopted, including the transportation master plan, the Parks, Recreation, Open Space and Trails Master Plan, Waterfront Development Plan, Moderate Income Housing Plan, and your Economic Development Strategy. It also incorporates the transportation master plans that MAG and UDOT and UTA have coordinated and collaborated on. The document is organized by chapter or element. The blue highlighted chapters that you see there are the statutorily required chapters, the land use and land use with the future land use map, housing element, particularly the moderate income housing plan that is part of that, the transportation master plan, and the water preservation element are all required elements of the general plan. The remaining chapters reflect some of the priorities and influential elements for the future of Saratoga Springs. And so they have been included to ensure their consideration in future development and land use decision-making. Each chapter of the document includes a statement of how that element supports the city's vision for the future that's embedded in the general plan, background, history, and analysis related to that topic, what we heard from the community related to that topic, and then lays out a goal for that particular element and the strategies and actions to achieve that goal into the future. This is the future land use map, the updated one that is embedded as part of this plan. I have it as a PDF in case in your later discussion we want to start zooming in on different areas. But this is them.
Is it in here?
Is that the one that's
It's in your document.
XR?
It's page. Oh, there we go. Page 8. No, that's not in. There it is. Page 28. Page 28 in your PDF or in the document itself.
Sorry, the PDF and the page numbers and the page numbers don't match up.
34 and 93.
Oh my gosh. You might need to rotate. Can you rotate the screen?
I can figure it out.
Oh, okay.
So this is different than what we have in our packet, slightly.
Shouldn't be. I pulled it right out of there.
I can see a couple of spots where it's different.
Okay.
All right. I might want to talk.
They're on my neighborhood, so they just-
Oh. So in terms of changes from your current future land use map, which is the map that helps guide development decisions, within the district area the district area plan, development area, we have called out areas for commercial development. We have also included the updated alignment of the proposed future Mountain View corridor with some commercial development nodes around that alignment. We have also included the annexation area that was part of the annexation plan that you adopted earlier this year. There are a handful of other changes to the map, but those are the main key points and changes that were made to the future land use map.
Are we interacting?
Yeah, it's work session.
We're interactive.
I just want to get clarity that, so the map in our packet is different from this? Is this a more recent version we're
So
looking at?
keep in mind, the packet has several maps in it.
I'm looking at the future land use
Make
map.
sure you're on 3.8, future land use map.
Yep.
Okay.
For, on the PDF.
So Sarah, do they have version 9 in their packet?
That's what mine
They
is.
should.
So I pulled the map on the screen out of version 9, so I'm not sure.
So is this going to be more up to date than what we're looking at?
It's the same map. The
It's,
color.
the colors might be off on the screen. We will double check. If there's something specific that you've noticed, we
There's
have
a
it
few.
printed out.
Properties around Sunrise Meadows and Talbot's Ridge.
Go down one
Looking
more.
at that map, I would
One
say
more.
that that whole area is marked as low-density residential. The map we're looking at in the document has it marked as a mixture of that as well as rural residential.
It's the same. You just can't see these very well. but it's different.
So is there a light
Yeah.
green there, and that's just not showing?
Yes,
There
there
is-
is a light green. I can show you on the printed version.
Well,
You said
let
there's a-
me, we talked about being able to zoom in on a PDF, so let me, yeah, I'll zoom in on that. Let me
Yeah, if
pull.
I can look at the
I
printed
just-
version.
I just know that we're gonna be talking about that later tonight, so I wanna.
Oh, okay. So I think we might be, does this help? So there is a yellow and a green,
It's correct.
there, it's
It's
all
just
yellow.
that on the screen.
here it's-
Differentiation in the colors isn't showing.
oh, okay. There is a light green and a yellow.
There's a light green in that yellow?
There is a light green adjacent,
It doesn't show up on the TV.
So this is light, this is
It is
correct.
Oh.
Okay,
That's fine, as long as we
Okay.
know we're looking at the right map.
yeah, we're looking at the same
So,
thing.
yes, this area here is light green, and then the area here is light green.
Got it, thank you.
Wow, yeah, this
You can see my
TV
confusion.
Yeah,
is different than even my screen right in front of me.
Yeah, I see your
Okay.
confusion.
It's pulling different colors.
So what's funny is if you look at the lines,
You're on the wrong map.
they're a different color in the green part than in the yellow part.
we need some 4K TVs in here.
Yeah.
Art? Need better TVs.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else we want to touch on with the map while we
I'm
have it?
assuming that it's, that light green is continued on through the.
Yeah.
And I double checked, and you do all have the correct version, so we're,
So this is the future land use map. This comes out of all the discussions with the steering committees, management committees.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all good.
So the future land use map changes that are embedded in the version in front of you are a result of several conversations with the steering committee, with the planning commission, with the staff, and other stakeholders, reviewing both changes that have occurred since the last time your future land use map was adopted and updated, and the policy moves that are contemplated in the general plan.
Well, to get you back on track, since I got you off track, I'm really excited to see these overlays, hash zones or whatever in the DAP, just to provide some definition to what used to be a big gray box of who knows. Giving some definition both to the developers as well as to the future city councils and stuff as to what we would hope to see in these areas, I think is extremely useful.
The town center area that is one of the areas that has a hash, as well as taking advantage of the Mountain View corridor, those are two items that we heard consistently through the community engagement process as well as through the steering committee process. We did get a lot of feedback online through our surveys as well and through just the open comment portals that we had about the importance of creating that sort of central area for the community as you continue to grow.
And Ken, for you, would it make sense to have some type of an overlay or a hash that shows our gateway zones on this land use map?
Perhaps not the land use, that would be a
More zoning map?
zone, it would go on the zone.
Okay, all right.
The other thing we heard consistently through the outreach process, and that is reflected in the general plan as well, is the importance of connectivity through trails and open space, the importance of connecting the lake and the foothills and the various communities and neighborhoods and parks within the city. So that's reflected in the general plan as well. So that was one of the priorities. Okay. That's not very nice. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I have to have the mouse over here.
Oh.
Okay, go ahead.
I was like, no, it's not working. So I don't expect you to be able to read this. I know it's very small, but this is a screenshot of the summary chapter in the general plan where the goals, strategies, and actions that are found throughout the document are summarized by chapter so that you can use this as a tool to see, the full scope of the goals, strategies, and actions that are included in your general plan. So the Planning Commission, when they held their public hearing last Thursday night, and we had a discussion with them prior to them adopting the motion forwarding the plan to you with a positive recommendation, there were certain things that they discussed and thought they'd like to forward to you for additional consideration. Those include education. That education is not a required element of a general plan. It didn't come up consistently. It didn't come up in our community outreach. There was a planning commission member who felt like education is important to the community, and perhaps some consideration or discussion of education might be appropriate.
What do they mean by education?
They just want it to be acknowledged that that's a high priority for this area and something that's important to the people who live here.
For people to be educated, or an action for the city to do something?
Plan around.
It was one commissioner and.
You don't have any say over schools.
I know.
Right, and they just thought that learning should be part of the plan.
Okay. I mean, I heard at a planning commission meeting recently, someone say, why is this city put 4 schools into one area? Westlake, Vista, the charter school. We don't have any say over that. The school district puts the schools wherever they want. We can't stop them. I want to know what they mean by education. If it's just a general, hey, education.
Well,
then
the
okay.
next bullet item,
We believe education.
Yeah.
yeah, the next bullet item is somewhat related to that. As they were having their conversation, their discussion around education in the general plan, they did start to discuss whether or not secondary education, a satellite campus of some sort, putting that on the plan as a goal. Not necessarily elementary and high school that's governed by Alpine School District, but perhaps talking about other types of
A
education. that
UVU
might be
campus or a USU campus.
something like that. The other,
They're gonna pick where they
unless
want.
there are more questions about that. The other items include adding examples or adding detail to the downtown gathering spot goal. If you look in the land use chapter, we do talk about the area that's been called out on the future land use map as a future town center or city center, but we don't, in this particular plan, provide a lot of detail around what should be there other than some form of community gathering area. It's my understanding that the city has issued a request for proposals to start to do some additional planning around that, and as a result of that, this plan does not have a lot of detail. There's more detail about the waterfront, the future of the waterfront. There's some examples and case studies there. In that particular case, the waterfront has an existing zone, so we were just putting some, concept ideas in there to kind of flesh that out. So it's a little bit different, but the Planning Commission wanted you to consider perhaps adding some examples to that. And then the other thing is,
Christine, can I interrupt
Yeah,
you for just
sure.
a moment? So one of the reasons these items are coming up is in the Planning Commission motion, they asked that the council consider the Planning Commission feedback. So they recommended adoption. They didn't add any specific conditions. They just They just added a condition that the Planning Commission consider the feedback that they provided. On the topic of education, we did explain that as far as primary and secondary education, that does have a lot to do with the Alpine School District. Education wasn't something that kept coming up over and over. A lot of times, the topics that you see in here kept coming up over and over and over, like the town center kept coming up repeatedly. If there's any reason to have a secondary campus or something like that, we would want to possibly look at where we could put a spot for that on our land use map using the institutional civic. And then the downtown gathering spot, the comment was that we have a lot of examples in there, or several examples in there for our waterfront, but not as many examples for our downtown gathering spot. But I did let them know that we have this RFP out, and that our goal in this land use map was to identify those locations and what you're seeing in here, and then get into the details with the strategic plan, because then we'll get into more data with the strategic plan than what we do with a general plan. So I did explain that. And then the remove making it better together, they just thought that sounds like it's not good enough already. So that was where the comment came from. Some of them suggested leaving better together and taking out making it better together, and they thought that was the slogan we used for the process, but not necessarily should be document. And then they just wanted you to consider all their feedback.
Okay. Okay.
All of it?
All of it.
Consider most of it.
So just for some additional information about the last one, that phrase, making it better together, is on the cover, and it's in the first sentence of the executive summary, but it doesn't, other than in the overview and the appendix on the actual process where that was the brand of it, so it shows up there a lot. It doesn't show up anywhere else.
Can I ask, are these recommendations like one person wanted it, or is it a consensus? Because when we had the joint meeting, there
I know.
were individual little things. If it's just one commissioner, not that I'm discounting it, but if it's one commissioner only, I don't want it coming forth as a planning commission recommendation to us.
And I agree with that, and we did encourage them to make a specific condition if they all wanted that as a group. But that's not what happened. And they asked that their comments be considered. The last item is the one that had the most consensus. So I would say the first three items were just, one or separate planning commissioners, but the last item we had probably three commissioners agree with that.
So my request is when this comes to us for approval, I mean, I'm great, they're providing their comments, but unless they made a motion, it shouldn't be considered a planning commission recommendation in any of our motions for consideration, because if we don't know if it was 1, 2, this one apparently 3, but I'm just one of 4 of us up here, but unless they put it in a motion and made an official recommendation, it's not a recommendation from the planning commission. I'm happy to consider it. It's good. It's at this point, to me, it's public comment, which is great.
So the motion was that you consider it. So it wasn't, none of these items were conditions in their motion.
Am I?
No, I think it's a valid point. That, unless it's an official.
I mean, we don't get to make unofficial changes to code because one of us thought that way and mentioned that we thought that would be a good idea. If it's not in the motion, it doesn't have any weight. So. Just in future.
Okay.
I would say, I know there's a couple particular items that I had a concern with last time, and I did go through it, even keyword searches, and I appreciate the adjustments and the feedback that were taken from that joint meeting. So
that's where we are in our discussion tonight, is to hear from each of you, anything that you want to talk about and bring up. So I kept the presentation part short.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't.
We were a part of most of this, so.
I've had so many meetings on this that I'm sure my views are fairly well represented.
Yeah. I mean, mine as well.
Okay.
You got anything else,
Do you have anything else, Tad?
I mean, the public input recommendation is how I read it. Like, I don't know what to do with that. Their
Taking
main
off
one.
making it better.
Making it better together, or I'm fine with it staying there.
It's basically like the
It's-
title of this.
Yeah,
this general plan,
it's
right?
scrapping everything, so
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Do you have anything else for us, or?
So what we're going to do next is incorporate any feedback from you, the city council. We have some final edits that need to be made, some grammatical and things that have been flagged, as well as some input from the city attorney that we need to incorporate that are clarifying changes. And then we will provide the revision to you for your consideration on September 6th.
Okay.
Are there any more, will there be a public open house to present this, or is it just at the council?
We had not
No, I think
planned one.
This is it, okay.
yeah, this is our last
We
chance
adopt
to
it, we
make
put
changes
it,
and we adopt it.
adopt it, put it on the website.
well, is it a public hearing item?
No, this is work session item, so.
session.
No,
just-
I know, not now,
Next-
but.
the
It
final-
was, so the public hearing was last week with Planning
Planning
Commission.
Commission.
And then when it comes to council, it's not required to be a public hearing.
So so it was.
So we adopt it, yes, we adopt it and it's done,
Yeah.
okay?
So that you know, we're planning as a strong possibility at our next breakfast with planners event to have one of the discussions, a review of what the general plan is.
Do you have a timing for that?
We're looking at October 27th right now. It's a Thursday.
Great,
Get a healthy breakfast before you go out and get all the candy.
I won't be there.
Perfect.
Okay?
Out of town.
Okay,
Wow.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be hunting Bambi.
I'm going to leave tonight.
No, Bambi's older brother, hopefully.
Right.
On Bambi, I'm in trouble.
Okay, we'll move on to the policy portion of our meeting. Present tonight, we have Councilman Carn, Councilman Porter, Councilman Wilden. So we do have a quorum for this evening. Councilman Podeska and McComber have asked to be excused. I've asked Councilman Wilden to lead us in our invocation, and Councilman Porter, will you lead us in our pledge?
Sure.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this evening and this day, and we're grateful to be able to be gathered here to be able to evaluate various things for the city. And we ask thee to bless us with thy spirit, that we'll be able to make good decisions for the betterment of our community and our neighbors and our family and the existing residents. And we ask thee to give a special blessing on our military members and our first responders, that they can carry out what's needed and safety. And these things we say in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, public input. Time has been set aside for the public to express ideas, concerns, and comments for subject matter not listed on the agenda. If you're here for the public hearing, item 1, fiscal year 2022-2023 budget amendment, please hold your comments for the public hearing. Please avoid repetitive comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please be respectful in your comments, and please state your name and address for the record. Is anybody here for public input at this time? Anything sent in? I will
Just,
close.
if there's anybody that wants to talk about business item 3, now is your chance. I just know there's some people here that have sent me emails, and I just want them to understand.
Yep, okay.
Okay.
Okay, we'll close the public input at this time. Anything from the council for reports? Since last Tuesday?
So we're just here.
Yeah. Mark, anything from administration?
Yeah, I do have a couple quick items for council. First one is, we have our staff training that's coming up in October, and we wanted to ask each one of you if you'd be willing to record just a few-minute little snippet for staff. And so if you're, just so you're aware, Ann will be reaching out to you. We'd like you to pick your favorite spot in the city, and she'll go and record there, just a quick message for us to kind of meld together as a message for staff for that training event. Again, what we do on Columbus Day, since most government entities are closed on that, as well as banks and others, we close for that day, but we use that as a training day for all of our employees, get all of our annual required training in. But we'd like to get just a little snippet from each of you as council members for that, and I'd be happy to talk with you more if there's any questions on that. Did want to follow up on a couple of quick items. Any questions on that? I'm sorry.
So we're supposed to do it in front of your house, record it, or?
I'd love it if you do that, Stephen. That would be fantastic.
Mark, I do have a question about the annual training. Is there annual training that we are required to do?
Yes, and we typically do that in association with our
Retreat?
annual retreat.
Okay.
And so we cover that. This is bloodborne pathogens, safe driving, workplace safety, those kinds of
Workplace,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, and so you're certainly welcome to join us. I believe it will be several hours, and we'd love to have you. So in lieu of you attending, we'd love it if you could just help us. Again, just something where you get an opportunity, to, say thanks to. Fantastic.
Great.
Got a couple questions regarding parks maintenance as well as park scheduling. And so I talked with Rick in Recreation. He'll be working with Heston to coordinate some of those issues that were brought up earlier today in one of our discussions. Another question that was raised was the sprinklers being adjusted on Redwood Road north of Fairway Boulevard on the west side of the road. Those have been adjusted and have been for a couple of weeks. And so if you see anything out of line with that, we'd be happy to do that. And there's, just as you know, we were kind of rushing to get several of the roads projects wrapped up over the last weekend. Congratulations, tomorrow schools open with Alpine School District, and so we'll have a bit of the fun and the commute delays that are likely going to be associated with that. So leave early, leave often. And we expect that that's happening. We are excited. Several of the projects that you as a council identified as potential concerns, especially at 400 North and 800 West, we were able to get a lot of those improvements made. The sidewalk on the north side of 400 North was installed as part of this project. Some new striping, other things. Obviously, the police department is aware of all of the changes and all of kind of the things that are going to be happening. They're going to be out on patrol for the next couple of weeks, emphasizing and trying to help the traffic patterns around the schools and stuff like that. So had a conversation with them about that, and so they're queued up for that. With that, did want to give you a quick update on the water levels and what's going on with the water system. As you know, Jacobs Ranch well is still down. We have all the parts. The contractor is working on having that reinstalled, and so we hope to have that reinstalled over the next 2 to 3 days. Is when that's hopefully be coming online. The good news is that that's coming online. The bad news is we had another one of our wells. We had a part that failed, and we're going to be replacing that part. That should be coming back online again. The residents shouldn't see any operational issues, but it is just one of those things. Quick update for you as it relates to our current water restrictions and our drought response plan. We alluded to last week possibly being able to make some adjustments. We have additional information that came in as early as or as late as this afternoon. We will have Jacobs Ranch well coming back online in the coming days. The canals are currently running because of a water agreement that was made with Metro Water, and we can't verify it, but we understand that they're continuing to run the ULDC canal with primary shares of water out of some of the other water rights in the area. Those will continue to run, we hope, into September. But we anticipate somewhere between the end of August and September, possibly into October, when primary water rights are used up, is when those would likely cease flowing. So we're not recommending at this point a change to our rate, if you would, or the response level, keeping it at that 80% level. We do have the ability to readjust that and consider that again in our first meeting in September if there's any additional information that leads us to believe we should change that. But at this point, we would recommend staying the course. I've got a report that I'll hand out to you. I emailed it to you earlier this afternoon, but if you'd like a paper copy of it, I've got that, and a few extra copies if anyone's interested in that after the meeting.
Currently, Welby, Jacob, and ULDC are still running.
They are still running, but they're running because Metro Water has an agreement to provide primary water. So secondary water rights expired at the end of July, and the 1st of August, they went and shifted from secondary water rights or secondary storage rights to primary water. And so there's an arrangement for that. However, we have seen the canal company shut down in September in years past. And so again, we're not quite ready to make any other recommendations until after Jacob Ranch Well is online and we can see its performance relative to that. Now, we have requested a temporary change application to move all of our available water rights from our wells and be able to use those at the Marina Pump Station. We don't have an answer yet as to whether that's approved or not. If that gets approved, it will allow us to continue to pump our primary water rights later into the summer or until those water rights are depleted. We think that that could carry us through the year. But again, it's more of a temporary change that we've requested that would allow us to continue to pump until lake levels are too low for us to be able to pump from that pump house. So that's kind of the update from last week. Just thought I'd pass that along to you. And again, happy to answer any questions that you might have. Otherwise, thank you for your time. And I think that's it. We do have need for a closed session today.
Councilman Carn, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just had a couple of comments. I want to thank staff, Mark, Jeremy, anybody else involved. I know that Pony Express, I ask often on when that will be done. And just for public's knowledge, we got thrown a curveball, in the ninth inning on that job, and UDOT added some additional requirements to us to add the deceleration and acceleration lane at that intersection. We would have opened that much sooner, but we have to work in partnership with the state on Redwood Road, which is a state road. Also want to ask, because Redwood's a state road and that intersection and others are going to be heavily used tomorrow, it seems like inevitably we'll have a problem with traffic lights in the morning for some reason. Is UDOT queued up? Because they can fix that remotely.
Yeah.
So are they on speed dial tomorrow? And do we have available patrols to help those intersections when those lights start to flash?
Yeah, and as I indicated, the police department is queued up and ready. We did talk to UDOT. This morning, there was a little bit of a snafu in that they were restriping and refreshing paint lines and
at Pioneer this morning?
Pioneer and Redwood. And again, we generally want them done and off the road by about 6:30 in the morning, and they gave till 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning, which was an absolute abysmal coordination effort. We heard about it as well, and we weren't not aware of it up front. So we will be emphasizing to UDOT, please don't mess with commute times ever, and we'll follow up with that, and then we'll reach out to UDOT, and if we need to make adjustments, we can do that. Again, this morning, snafu had nothing to do really with the light cycles. It had everything to do with like that free right from Redwood onto Pioneer Crossing. It was closed, and they were striping that, and they were refreshing paint, and they had kind of blocked that off, and I think they were...
It went back like a mile.
Yeah, I know. It took me 30 minutes to go 7 miles.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know. And so anxious to have that resolved, and we're going to continue to emphasize that we need to have better coordination.
Do you know if was Pony and Redwood restriped?
Pony and Redwood was striped as part of this. Now, one thing, and thank you for bringing that up, I was talking to Chris Klingel earlier yesterday, And when you have new asphalt and freshly sealed asphalt, when you put paint on it, it just absorbs it real quick. We're trying to get this open. We have plans within the next month to go out there and restripe all of it once it has a chance to kind of,
Right.
you know, not during commute time, thank you. But we've got plans to refresh that within about the next 30 days so that those are all fresh and bright. But again, when you get fresh asphalt, fresh seal coat on it, you put paint on it, it just kind of absorbs it. So
And did our intersection at 400 North, that's open and free flow?
open, should be operating well, and we look forward to whether or not that helps our traffic situation
Okay.
tomorrow.
We'll see.
If not, Facebook will let us know.
Yep.
I can't get out of my, get a phone call from Untitled Boulevard.
Okay. Public hearing, fiscal year 2022, 2023 budget amendment.
Evening, Mayor and Council. This is our first budget amendment for fiscal year 2023, and it includes a few personnel changes and additions, in addition to asking for funds for a capital asset maintenance line item in our Fund 35, and then also our depreciation book entries that were done at the very last budget amendment last year that we needed to update this year. And I just need to know if you have any questions concerning what's presented.
If there's no questions, I'll open the public hearing. Is anybody here for the public hearing of the fiscal year 2022, 2023 budget amendments, Resolution R22-51? If so, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Please avoid repetitive comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is anybody here for the public hearing of the fiscal year 2022, 2023? Anything sent in, Owen? Okay, I will close the public hearing. If there's no other comments from the council, entertain a motion.
I move we approve public hearing item number 1 as stated on the agenda.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden,
Second.
second from Councilman Porter. Any further discussion? Karn?
All right.
Porter?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I will entertain a motion on the consent items.
I move to approve consent items as listed on the agenda.
I have a first from Councilman Karn,
I'll second.
second from Councilman Porter. Any further discussion? Councilman Wilden?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Karn?
All right.
Motion passes unanimously.
It was a lot faster without those two.
Yes. Business item 1, Still Ridge Plaza, preliminary plat. Devin Hatch.
Okay, council. This is Still Ridge Plaza preliminary plat. The current zoning is regional commercial. It's just right across, right close to us. You're on Crossroads Boulevard, and Devin, the applicant, is here. Of course, the major street is Crossroads Boulevard. The acreage is 10.17. The number of lots is 11, and the planning commission forwarded a positive recommendation 4-0 on July 28th. This is the location of the preliminary plat. And this is the preliminary plat. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to address those at this time. And as I mentioned, Devin, our applicant, is here.
It's right here, okay. No.
No questions? Okay, if there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'm only gonna second stuff.
What?
I move that we approve Steel Ridge Plaza preliminary plat, business item 1 as listed on the agenda with any staff findings and conditions.
I have a first from Councilman Porter,
Second.
second from Councilman Karn. Any further discussion? Wilden?
Aye.
Karn?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We have business item 2, the Utah County General Plan Amendment and Rezone and Interlocal Agreement.
Okay, Council and Mayor, this is an application from Utah County for property off of Saratoga Road, and to be known as the extension of Pony Express. Property that they would like to build county facilities on, and it's currently zoned agriculture.
They would like to have the institutional and civic uses put on there, and so the natural open space, which is the general plan designation, would also be changed to institutional civic. So this is the property as shown on the map. They are showing some of the developed open space around the park that exists along the river included in that area. Not that they're planning any facilities there, but that's just part of the property that is in there. And then they also have very basic, I don't think it's specified at all, their
Those architectural?
concept plan.
They're 80%.
I don't think they've done any planning, really. They're just looking at additional facility space that may go there.
Those
So
are real sizes there.
we will
Whole parking lot.
work with them further as that comes forward.
Good on them for not using crayon.
I think we presented them a better plan when we tried to annex the mountainside.
Right. Good gravy.
So this has been to the Planning Commission, and their recommendation is for approval. Also staff recommendation.
No, Mark, this won't impact, because we've got the long-term lease on Inlet Park and the RC Park. They're not,
No, this is specifically tied to, if you recall, when we tried to get right-of-way to realign Pony Express and improve that transportation corridor, their participation was contingent upon us rezoning it for them to have some sort of governmental institutional use for the property. The rezone request, I think actually is a tremendous benefit for us. If you recall, some of the stipulations we built in would be, no long-term, this can't turn into kind of a jail, a long-term jail facility. It's got limited, they're limited to about 24 hours where they can hold prisoners. We're limiting this so it can't be used for like a sewer scalping plant or anything like that, any of those heavy industrial uses. It really kind of matches what we're doing with our Public Works facility and our future Public Works campus. It's located to Pony. There are some great benefits to it. Really, it's just consistent with what we've been trying to negotiate with them for some time in order to be able to secure that land to extend and change the Pony Express
I just
alignment.
noticed it wrapped around the Air Modelers Association Airport, and I know
Yeah, and
kind of a
they're-
unique feature no other city has.
It's still part of their property title. Ironically, though, I doubt they'll build inside the river. That's really what it is. And so from that standpoint, I guess technically we could try and remove that little, I don't know,
Glass bottom boat launch.
fish hook looking piece of ground. But technically, I wouldn't imagine them doing any construction inside the trail corridor from a just
And
pragmatic
one more is
wetland
just,
purpose.
they build buildings next door, they're going to close the airport down.
Oh,
That's a unique thing, like our train park, airport.
No, and if you remember, when they gave us Inlet Park, it was conditioned upon us maintaining and keeping that going. So I can't imagine that they would restrict that in any way. But again, I don't want to presuppose any decisions made by our county commissioners.
So I know you love our hypotheticals.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you one anyway. Institutional civic, we don't rezone to that too terribly often. If at some later point the county changes their mind, declares this surplus and sells it off to a developer, they're going to have to come back. Like, basically only a governmental body can build in that zone, correct?
Or civic, yeah, institutional or civic, it's going to have to meet that prerequisite. In theory, maybe they could build a nonprofit campus or something like that, but
Okay. But it can't.
there's no housing development rights on it, so.
No industrial use.
I think I already know the answer to this. Once they come in, like the state or the school district, we have no real teeth in how it looks or anything like that, right?
No, this is where they actually have to follow our code.
Do they really?
They will, yeah, they will. And the state preempts themselves, and they preempted all schools and charter schools from that.
But not the county.
But the county's not in that basket of goods, so.
First time ever this has happened, so, for us, in 9 years.
Architectural restrictions only apply to schools and classroom facilities. It doesn't apply to other school district buildings.
So that answers my question is they couldn't build like a station and put barbed wire all around it and say, keep out Utah County or something
Could they
like.
build something and classify it as an education center
Would have the classroom facility.
with classrooms in it? And then they,
This is well, yeah, it'd be
kind of like the bus depot, they put a classroom in it
K
and call
through
it an
12.
education.
Has to be K through 12 under the state law.
So,
But again, this is, and it says other governmental entities with the permission of this, with the written permission of the city.
Okay,
That's what the development agreement says.
I
I'm
would
good.
say, I kind of would like to see a condition on the rezone to the mayor's point that their access to the RC park for the public is not restricted.
I technically think that's already covered in our agreement for the RC park. But again, if that's a condition you wanted to add.
It never hurts. We got a gravel pit on the side of the mountain, so it never hurts to have double.
Yeah, and so if you wanted to make that a part of your motion, you could. I'm not sure how they would receive it, and again, we may have to review the item if they reject that. But I can't see, quite literally anything that's within that scope of the river corridor because of wetlands and other issues. I can't see any construction happening there.
Is your concern the access to our site or
It's more that they close it down.
the impacts on the RC?
Yeah, they
park?
build the buildings where they're showing and then say, oh, that's too close and close it.
Okay, so we would just say
Drones keep
something
running into our windows, so.
shall not adversely impact uses on the RC park.
Correct.
I think
That's fine.
we'll definitely bring that to their attention. Their county commission's meeting tomorrow night to discuss this.
Perfect. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve business item 2, including staff findings and conditions, adding the condition that any future construction doesn't impact the use of the RC park.
Second.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden, a second from Councilman Carn. Any further discussion? Porter?
Aye.
All
Carn?
right,
Wilden?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Sunrise Cove General Plan Amendment and Rezone.
this is item 3.
So the current zoning is rural residential. The current land use is rural residential, and the proposed land use is low-density residential. The current zoning is RA, residential agriculture, 5-acre minimum, and the proposed zoning is R110. And the applicant is Alpine Homes, and Austin Richards, who represents Alpine Homes, is here. Here's the area. It's right kind of the intersection of Fairview Road and Foothill Boulevard. The proposal is to rezone 3.989 acres and to leave kind of the remaining parcel open for future Mountain View corridor. So this is showing the land use, the current land use of rural residential. And this map is showing the current zoning of residential agriculture, 5-acre minimum. And here is the concept plan that's been presented by the applicant. And this depicts the concept plan with the future Mountain View corridor, at least one of the proposals that UDOT has presented to us. And then most recently, they've said, well, maybe we'll need a little more property. So this is a depiction of the red line indicating where possibly the Mountain View corridor could extend in relationship to their proposed concept plan. So I'll be glad to address any questions you might have. The Planning Commission considered this item and recommended denial. And so if you have any questions, I'd be glad to address those, or the applicant is also here.
Anything from the council before we invite the applicant?
Beforehand?
No, I can hold.
I'll wait.
Okay. Would the applicant like to say anything?
Sure.
Okay, if you want to come up and sit.
Again, my name is Austin Richards. I work with Alpine Homes, based out of Trumbull, Utah. Yeah, just make a comment, I guess, on our project and kind of what we were looking for. Just to address the UDOT overlay, that was fairly recently, as far as what they were asking for. So we'll obviously need to, address that with UDOT and to finalize that. And is obviously a UDOT approval would be required before we would get to a final plat per se. One other thing too, I don't know, I'm sure you've seen the development agreement out in place. A lot of the comments coming out of the planning commission meeting were from a lot of residents in the area concerned about public safety with their kids getting to school. As a part of our development agreement, we were offering to provide a pathway for those kids to be able to go up to the intersection just to the north. So it's kind of a way that we could help the city, help the neighbors, help the neighborhood become safer, and also be able to improve our project as well and to be able to improve the side of the road. So.
Could you please explain that a little bit more? I'm curious as to what a pathway, quote unquote, means.
Yeah, so like a trail. I mean, it's basically I mean, it wouldn't be just like, hey, we're going to run a skid steer through the dirt and call that a pathway. I don't think anyone considers that a pathway, but I mean, the exact design, we haven't got there yet, but anything from.
So not a paved sidewalk?
Yeah, I would think so.
You would think it would be a paved sidewalk?
Asphalt, concrete, I mean, it hasn't got there yet.
Right.
But, I mean, I think we all understand what what we're trying to offer. Yeah. Something you could remove snow from.
So that would go from your project up to?
Yeah, so out towards Foothill and then basically connect with the sidewalk that exists on Foothill south to an intersection. It actually looked like it was just recently improved to put crosswalks and like a buffer or something. I saw looked like some newly improved stuff in that road.
We're limited on the right-of-way that we have. It would be comparable to what we have north of 400 North, which is a very narrow strip with a sidewalk. So it is a sidewalk, yes, but it's not, ideally, until the property owners are willing to allow us to have more right-of-way, we're kind of stuck with that little narrow, that narrow way. But again, that is, somewhat an improvement to what is currently there.
So the property owner is the same property owner north, right?
Family of property owners.
Right.
Along the northern border. But would this pathway, as it's being referred to, trail, whatever we want to call it, would it meet the specifications for a safe walking path for the school? Look at the staff for.
In the proposed development agreement, I believe.
It's not currently the safe walking route for the school.
It's not currently, but I mean, would this meet the
Criteria that have to be evaluated, so we can't.
you can't answer definitively?
And typically, engineers will work with the school district in identifying that. The current safe walking route is to go down to Pony, to go along the trail along Pony, and then up the eastern side of Pony along that trail corridor. So,
right.
But it could be amended in the future if it meets those criteria. Again, the crosswalk at 400 North is a manned crosswalk, or, it is a staffed crosswalk when it comes to.
Yeah, it's somewhat important because either A, we're creating an attractive nuisance by putting in a path that they're all going to use anyway and are now crossing in an unsafe place where they're already crossing. We're just kind of encouraging that. Or we're providing an answer to the problem that we currently have. And so a yay or a nay on that is, it's a big.
Councilmember Porter, this is Jeremy. Sorry. I'm joining remotely from the heavens, apparently. The direct answer is yes, it could. It would have to meet design guidelines, 5 feet minimum width, and it would have to have sufficient clear zone from the travelway. So there would have to be enough separation from the road to the sidewalk to be, safe from a clear zone standard. I think what Mark was, we don't know the answer to that because without a design, I can't definitively say it can meet all those design requirements. But if they could meet those design requirements, then yes, the school could adopt that as their safe walking route, and we could, and then they could amend their map.
And do you have the property owner's permission on the piece you're not acquiring to put the sidewalk in?
And that's the challenge is they control their property, they don't control the neighboring property.
Yeah.
But again, I think some of the comments in the planning commission were, hey, here's our concerns about what's safe in our community. And obviously, the motion to deny or to not move forward maintains the status quo. If the developer is willing to help solve or resolve some of those issues, then that certainly could be a beneficial.
The
like-
other property owner is planning on selling to UDOT. They are under contract.
They are under contract?
They are not currently, there are other properties in the area that are under contract.
Okay. They're not under contract, but they're in discussion.
Okay,
with UDOT.
but my point is there's no agreement with the current property owner or UDOT for an easement to put a trail through that property to connect to the other sidewalk.
To Foothill, yeah.
No agreement today.
As of today, no.
Okay.
Not that we know of.
I want to make
And my-
sure.
And my understanding was the other concern was the request to rezone. And I guess planning can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe one of the concerns was they're asking to rezone the property that would be Mountain View Corridor. I think previously they did not want to submit an application that only was a rezone on the piece where the homes are going, but the rezone request is the entire property.
Yeah.
One of the concerns we had was rezoning that and increasing the cost to the taxpayers of acquiring that in the future for.
That was my
corridor,
other
I don't
major
know.
concern, Jeremy, was with the ambiguity over where that line is. I'm not comfortable rezoning R3 we're gonna have to pay triple the price for, or R110. We're gonna have to pay triple the price for Mountain View Corridor. I'd rather find out where that line needs to be from UDOT and then proceed.
Well, I think really keeping it just to the application itself. Right now, you have in the land use plan, you have rural residential identified for that property. They're not planning on developing it. That should be the focus of your vote and your decision, not anything about UDOT or Mountain View Corridor.
Right, but I'm not willing to change the general plan if it's going to be.
Yeah, what I'm saying is the undeveloped part of the property, I'm recommending that you base your decision based on the general plan designation of rural residential, that you deny the rezone request for that portion of the property. And to answer.
We don't know what portion that is.
I mean, the undeveloped portion of their property.
But we don't know where that line is
Okay.
what I'm saying.
That's a valid point. They should identify that. But regardless, I don't think you should be basing your decision on what another entity is going to do or not do with the property. That's my best recommendation for you. But if they're not
I get what you're
going to build on it.
I understand where you're coming from.
Undeveloped, I would not recommend rezoning that because of the fact that there's nothing planned for development on that
I mean,
property.
I've got real concerns that
Yeah.
the development agreement says we're going to build a trail, but you got to get a lot of other property owners on board.
And right, and that's,
And they're not on board today, and
Otherwise, the trail doesn't really.
otherwise the trail doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right,
so
stop.
you as a council can impose conditions on this development to address the impacts created by it. And so we have a legitimate government interest in ensuring that residents who are going to have children can safely use the sidewalk and have a safe walking path to school. This isn't a trail that's being built for anybody else outside of this project. It's meant to address the impacts created by this project. And I think that's a legitimate exaction. And whether they have permission or not from the adjacent property owners, it isn't really our concern. They have to go work that out and negotiate it to
Right.
make sure that there's a safe path for the residents of this project to access a route that you know they're going to use.
Right, and I get what you're getting at, but whether or not the trail continues is inherent into whether that trail achieves the purpose, which is a safe walking trail for this neighborhood.
And I agree 100% with what you're saying. What I'm saying is that the developer has to figure out a way to get those easements. And that's, you're going to have a condition of this rezone.
So if the condition says the
And
trail has to be there and he can't
has
get
to be
it,
there.
they can't move forward.
Yeah, it's like building any other road. We don't necessarily worry about how a
Right.
developer gets access to their property. They just.
But we
they
can
have to
set a
do it.
condition saying it has to connect to Foothill.
So, Chris, you
Right.
had a comment?
Address the impacts created by
sorry.
this project.
No, that's fine. I find a way. I was just going to point out, there is, in the development agreement, there are times, as I read it over, like I have a limited amount of time to be able to get these approvals, otherwise it defaults back to the RA5 zoning. Is that, I'm pretty sure I'm speaking
Yeah,
correctly.
we have a sunset on our standard template for development agreements that they have to move forward and obtain final plat approval within 24 months. We just don't want these, it goes back in the day when we had these development agreements sitting out there for years.
10-year development agreements.
Yeah.
So my point being is, obviously we don't have it today, right now. This is kind of an idea way that we were trying to work with the city from our planning commission last month. That's not sufficient time to be able to pin all that down. So, we have time to iron these things out if it's conditional upon that.
Yeah. I think we can address the trail. I'm just not sure about that.
So,
And I like the direction you're heading to give us some specificity about what the standards of that trail would be. And Jeremy's pointed out what some of those standards are. Jeremy's correct, they haven't provided us any details of that trail yet. We're still at a very high level.
Right.
As they submit engineering plans to us, then we'll get those details. But if you want, obviously that's a concern you have. If the council wants to include that as a condition of your motion.
so I'm hearing two items so far, and I don't want to cut anything off. I just want to make sure that we've got some clarity on that. One would be the condition of acquiring and appropriately constructing that trail to the north as one of those conditions. And Perk, what Kevin was saying, the other was not rezoning the portion of the property that would potentially be under the future footprint of Mountain View Corridor. And we've done that in the past with other developers as well. So again, those are the two things that I'm hearing right now as concerns from the council. Is that
Not rezoning the east portion, whatever the mystery line is.
whatever that might be? And again, you don't necessarily, you could table the item until we get that defined, or the condition is that line is defined, and then that becomes that's portion of the property that's not subject to the rezone.
For me, I agree with those. To me, it's a challenge here, right? So the staff has recommended no, the planning commission's recommended no, at least twice. But unless we have some type of development here at some point, there will never be a safe walking path that will actually be used. Approving it right now doesn't necessarily get us there either. So, and then we'd be conflicting with the general plan at this point. I would be comfortable tabling it until we get more like definitions, or not definitions, but more.
Clarity.
Clarity is a better choice of words, or.
I have a
The right
question
word.
for Kevin. If a rezone is denied, how long before another rezone can be asked for? Do you know? I know
I
there's,
don't know, unless our code said that had some restriction on that, that
24 hours.
back the very next day.
so there's nothing in Utah code?
Nothing in Utah code, it would be
Okay.
strictly, it would default to our code.
And just as a follow back up, we were presented a draft of the general plan amendments. If you were inclined to approve this, then obviously you could make that amendment to that portion of the map when it comes back to address this, so that it would be an allowed or permitted use under the general plan's directive.
I would prefer not to preemptively amend the general plan by approving this without the other two council members at least having their ability to make comments. We can make a decision, but my whole point is I don't know that I want to like completely deny this, but if you look at the recording and minutes, and the commission statement, it was all about, hey, we don't have a safe walking path for the kids, and leaving it as this, there will never be one.
Right.
I don't know.
In order for that problem to be solved, something is going to have to go in.
And then they'd obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, they would have to like make some corrections to that portion of the road, right? Improve that section of the road
Yeah,
potentially.
for example, there would be some widening that would be taking place on that road that would resolve some of the concerns that I raised.
Right.
Probably not all of them, because there are some that would just ideally not like to see additional traffic.
Right.
Again, as a way forward, you can vote to approve it, you can vote to deny it, you can table it and request the applicant to address some of these issues prior to you taking action on it, which would also let the general plan roll forward if you chose to rezone this or other properties, as part of that process to then be consistent with it. So again, you really do have, three or more choices depending on how you want to situate that.
Well, so we don't typically, what part of the road are we talking about being improved with this application? Isn't it just
Fairfield Road.
the frontage?
The
Is it
frontage.
just so it would be just the project frontage? It wouldn't be what you're seeing as the Mountain View corridor? It wouldn't be the
No,
frontage?
yeah, it would be along
Okay.
Lehigh Fairfield, which is part of the concerns that have been raised by the community.
Well, and I think that it would be within your discretion to also address the path that connects to another safe sidewalk. So now, could you require that entirely of this developer when you know other kids are going to use the road? Probably not. But you can definitely require this developer to install the proportionate share of that
Right.
safe walking route. And if the developer said, I'll volunteer to go ahead and do that, because I recognize that the general plan says this is rural residential, and you're giving me low-density residential against the general plan, and that's a voluntary contribution, then you can require that. And, the alternative, of course, is you could just deny the rezone. So as part of this agreement, that could be included there. But I think it's to address the impacts created by this project, providing a safe walking route for those children.
I think we got a motion.
who are able to live there.
If I could clarify one point, and I'm sorry, I think you'll appreciate it once I make the clarification. I heard Sarah say the project, the frontage along the project. Are you saying from 800 West to the western boundary of the project, or are you saying only that portion essentially from the detention basin to the western edge?
Yes, the second part.
Yeah.
So
They're not buying the other.
we don't, as far as road improvements, it would be along the developed portion. So then beyond that, we wouldn't require road improvements.
Why wouldn't we be improving Fairfield from the eastern boundary to 800 West?
Can you,
They're not buying that portion.
Well, so it's interesting. We don't typically do this, but you're basically, you've looked at at the city, you've designated this area as rural residential under the general plan. I've heard the council talk about this so many times over the years. You are making a pretty big concession there. I think that it would be lawful for you to require that of the developer.
Okay.
Now, you don't want that to
That'd
go,
be similar to
you don't
the
want that to go
trail,
too far.
Offsite trail. It's not a development requirement. It would be part of an exaction as part of the general plan amendment.
Right, it's part of the concession that the developer is making in return
Right.
for the increase in density that you're granting this developer.
Okay.
Right now, it's
I can see that.
RA5, and it's rural residential in the land use map. So they're getting additional density and consideration in return for providing that safe walking path. That we know that the residents of this project are going to need.
Councilman Carn had a comment.
Yeah, before we make a motion, I wanted to
but
address
that's walking path. That's not full road. That's not full road right of width that we're talking about, is it? Or are we talking about just a safe walking path?
Yeah, I think it would be this is my recommendation to you, would be the walking path, to have a safe travel path for those residents.
But I believe the residents were also concerned about the half-width roadway as well.
Yeah.
And so.
The traffic.
On Fairfield, yeah.
Yeah, now that's something open to discussion. I think it's a stronger public interest in ensuring that those kids have a safe walking path.
Right. We could also have a proportionate share discussion on that. Something. Anyway. Oh, you had a.
Yeah, just a couple comments. I want to address a couple things I heard from the planning commission meeting, and I don't know if any of the same residents are here tonight. But the comment was made over and over that the city's just got their hands out looking for money. by doing development like this. There's no money. I mean, the city's not, stocking the coffers by adding 10 houses. That's just a not factual statement. The statement was made that people are tired of seeing the city force farmers out of the city. I have no interest in asking farmers to stop farming their land they own. If a landowner chooses to sell their land, this is where we got today. We have no interest in telling someone that not to farm and not to use their land as it's intended. And if we have farmers in the city, which we have today, I welcome them to stay here for the next 100 years. We're not looking to push anybody out. Another statement was made is that we as a city need to be making decisions around the populations of schools. We have no taxing authority over schools. Alpine School District is the entity that needs to make decisions on their funding. And if the schools are overcrowded, it is an Alpine School District responsibility to go build new schools. That has nothing to do with the city. We don't control where schools go. There are many schools right next to each other by the high school and Vista and the elementary schools. That is an Alpine School District decision. As a state law, we can't tell them where they can and cannot go. And so
We also cannot consider the availability of schools when we make land use decisions.
Right. We cannot, those things, we can't consider that when making a decision on where housing goes. So I just wanted to clear some of those things up because I think there was a lot of non-factual statements, and I think our planning commission took the brunt of it a little bit, which was not fair to them. And I'm happy to discuss this further after the meeting if anyone is here and wants to talk about it.
Okay. Councilman Wilden?
Well, I'll just say, my decision isn't based the same thing. We get no benefit. The only benefit if we were to rezone this and consider this at a future point is fixing the problem that the residents brought up. Traffic, safe school, or whatnot.
Walking distance routes.
Yeah, that's a safe school, but I meant safe walking distance routes.
Okay. I'll entertain.
All right. Prior to my motion, I believe that we can address the road width and the trail connectivity at the time when, at a future time, we take this up again. But I will move to continue this item until such point as we can get a definitive boundary for the UDOT right-of-way. That's it.
Okay. I have a first from Councilman Porter.
Second.
Second, Councilman Wilden. Any further discussion?
Could you add to the amendment not just the boundary, but as well as the general plan?
Oh.
I don't want to make a decision on this until we've made a decision on the general use plan.
Well, continuing the general plan amendment, rezone, concept plan, and development agreement.
Oh, okay, I missed, sorry.
Okay. So I have first, second.
Yeah, so my only comment on the motion is I'm in favor of continuing it because I'm not in favor of approving this today.
Okay.
And my question really is just so that we can work with the applicant, what are the things that you want to see resolved in addition to a definitive property line on that?
The safe walking route is the number one. If we can look at widening of Fairfield Road, I want to use the right old Fairfield Road,
right,
all the way to Foothill. That would also be good.
Yeah. So
those are things that are going to be brought up when if this comes back.
Okay.
Those are things that are going to be brought up then.
And I've never voted to increase density for somebody without a clear benefit to the city. And that if if Fairfield Road gets widened and the kids get a better walking path, that's something I'll consider. But right now, even our future land use map shows that as rural residential, not R10. And another thing I heard of the planning commission was they kept saying, we don't need any more high density. This is not high density. This is single family homes on quarter-acre lots.
These are bigger than
a lot of stuff we have out there today. Yeah. Well, this is not high density product.
And again, thank you very much. I just wanted that clarification so that we can be very clear with the applicant and they can know the expectations that are most likely out there in that condition.
Well, I would say in the resolution can't be, hey, we can do this if we get a a significantly higher density than R110. Like,
I won't entertain it.
if it comes in townhomes, then it needs to stay as it is in perpetuity.
Yeah.
So you have a motion, do you want
The motion to continue number 3,
added to the motion, or is this just informal feedback?
informal feedback.
Feedback. Okay, Councilman Carn.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Wilden.
Aye.
Motion carries to table the item. We have need for closed session. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Do we need
Motion
a
carries.
Do you need a motion?
To go into closed session?
Yeah.
He made
We
one.
already got it. Oh, yes. I do need a motion.
So made.
Took so long to get the last motion. First from Councilman Carn.
Second.
Second from Councilman Wilden. All in favor?
Aye.